The Dot by Peter H. Reynolds. Art class was over, but Vashti sat glued to her chair. Her paper was empty. Vashti's teacher leaned over the blank paper. "Ah, a polar bear in a snowstorm," she said. "Very funny," said Vashti. "I just can't draw." Now, I will ask you some questions about what I just read. You cannot see the questions, you can only hear them, so please listen carefully. I will ask them twice. You will see the choice of answers on your screen. Remember those answers because when we come back to school, we'll have a quiz with the same questions. Number 1. Where does the story take place? Where does the story take place? Number 2. What does glued to her chair mean? What does glued to her chair mean? Number 3. Why was Vashti feeling frustrated? Why was Vashti feeling frustrated? You can see the word frustrated on the page. Number 4. What does Vashti's teacher mean when she says, "Ah, a polar bear in a snowstorm"? What does Vashti's teacher mean when she says, "Ah, a polar bear in a snowstorm"? Her teacher smiled. Just make a mark and see where it takes you. Vashti grabbed a marker and gave the paper a good, strong jab. There. Number 1. Who helped Vashti? Who helped Vashti? Number 2. How did the teacher help Vashti? How did the teacher help Vashti? Number 3. How did Vashti make the mark? How did Vashti make the mark? Her teacher picked up the paper and studied it carefully. She pushed the paper toward Vashti and quietly said, "Now sign it." Vashti thought for a moment. Well, maybe I can't draw, but I can sign my name. Number 1. What does the teacher want Vashti to do? What does the teacher want Vashti to do? Number 2. What do you do when you sign something? What do you do when you sign something? Number 3. Can Vashti sign her name? Can Vashti sign her name? The next week, when Vashti walked into art class, she was surprised to see what was hanging above her teacher's desk. It was the little dot she had drawn, her dot, all framed in swirly gold. Number 1. When was Vashti's next art class? When was Vashti's next art class? Number 2. Where was Vashti's dot hanging? Where was Vashti's dot hanging? Number 3. How did Vashti feel after the teacher hung her picture? How did Vashti feel after the teacher hung her picture? I can make a better dot than that. She opened her never-before-used set of watercolors and set to work. Vashti painted and painted. A red dot, a purple dot, a yellow dot, a blue dot. The blue mixed with the yellow. She discovered that she could make a green dot. Vashti kept experimenting. Lots of little dots in many colors. Number 1. The next week, what does Vashti do in art class that is new? The next week, what does Vashti do in art class that is new? Number 2. What does Vashti use to paint her dots? What does Vashti use to paint her dots? Number 3. What do blue and yellow make? What do blue and yellow make? If I can make little dots, I can make big dots too. Vashti splashed her colors with a bigger brush on bigger paper to make bigger dots. Vashti even made a dot by not painting a dot. Number 1. How are the dots like the brush Vashti paints with? How are the dots like the brush Vashti paints with? At the school art show a few weeks later, Vashti's many dots made quite a splash. Number 1. What takes place right after Vashti paints lots of dot pictures? What takes place right after Vashti paints lots of dot pictures? Number 2. What does quite a splash mean? What does quite a splash mean? Vashti noticed a little boy gazing up at her. "You're a really great artist. I wish I could draw," he said. "I bet you can," said Vashti. "Me? No, not me. I can't draw a straight line with a ruler." Vashti smiled. She handed the boy a blank sheet of paper. "Show me." The boy's pencil shook as he drew his line. Number 1. How are Vashti and the boy the same? How are Vashti and the boy the same? Vashti stared at the boy's squiggle, and then she said, "Sign it." Number 1. How is the boy's drawing different from Vashti's? How is the boy's drawing different from Vashti's? Number 2. How is Vashti the same as her teacher? How is Vashti the same as her teacher? Number 3. Why do they sign their pictures? Why do they sign their pictures?